I don't understand why we're creating another government body. I'm going to be sitting here and advocating to my colleagues across from me that I want less government in this current situation. And I can't understand why we'd want another body that has no oversight. Who oversees the overseers in this case? What if they're pushing forth biased proposals and rules that my residents and constituents have a problem with? Where's the appeals process? Because I know right now the DEQ does have an appeals process for your residents, and they're allowed to go through it. And at the beginning of every single public hearing, the first thing, even when I dislike hearing it, the DEQ informs us that we will listen to your testimony, but just know we're not going to base any decision based on any emotions. We're going to base our decisions based on the technicalities. And that message is loud and clear at the beginning of every single public hearing, as much as I hate it sometimes. We saw there was 85,000 comments submitted against the Nestle permit. And it doesn't matter how emotional the issue got, the permit was still granted approval. Firstly, I just want to clarify, and I hope that we can at least address this new governing body. Spoken earlier that they're members of our population here in Michigan, but there's actually nothing in the bill that requires them to be Michigan residents. Actually, nothing that specifies that. So I think that is, that's one problem there. Secondly, there's a sentiment shared that industry experts are members of the general population. Certainly, they may be members, of Michigan, but they have a financial incentive tied to them, which I think brings in great bias. And I think it's important to note the distinction there, because this bill does bar. So it allows a lobbyist who represents at least one industry, only one industry, a maximum of one industry, on this committee. But it bars a former employee of the DEQ from being on this committee because of a bias that they might have. And so I don't understand how that is feasible, that we would allow a lobbyist who represents at least one industry on this committee, but bar a former possible professional and expert in the industry who used to work at DEQ in the last 2 years from participating on this committee. I don't believe we have an overzealous DEQ. The permit approval ratings are certainly in the high 90s, and I think more oftentimes than not, it's those approval of those specific permits that are to the detriment of the public health. And it's because the legislature has not really empowered the DEQ to take certain things into account, such as environmental justice factors, which they still are not allowed to take into account. If you're looking for a partner to engage and to try to ensure that our natural resources are protected for our families and generations to come, you certainly have one in me.